Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prachayana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachayana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanajari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada, Shila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaura Premanande, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sahama Veda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur. Chaitanya Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna. Reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 21, the opulence and sweetness of Lord Krishna. Text. Oh. I think that's the wrong text. Hadden luistert de falsche tekst ook.
We did this last Sunday. 68.
Zijn gedachten. Which one you did? Was it then?
68 we read last Sunday.
Oh, you read till there.
Only 68 I think we did. We didn't get past that I think.
Okay, so
He gave me this.
then there's a lot of verses that are purple.
Huh.
79.
So, what we do? We carry on. Okay. Text 69. Deki Chaturmukha Brahma parahaila hastigana madhye jena sasaka rahila. When the four-headed Brahma of this universe saw all the opulences of Krishna, he became very much bewildered and considered himself a rabbit among many elephants. Ashi Sabha Brahma Krishna Pada Pitta Age Dandarat Karite Mukuta Pada Pitte Lage. All the Brahmanas who came to see Krishna offered their respects at his lotus feet, and when they did this, their helmets touched his lotus feet. Krishnera achintya shakti lakite kehanar yatha brahma tatha murti ekahi sharir. No one can estimate the inconceivable potency of Krishna. All the Brahmas who were there were resting in the one body of Krishna. Padapita mukutagra sangate ute dvani padapte stuti kare mukata hena jani. When all the helmets struck together at Krishna's lotus feet, there was a tumultuous sound. It appeared that the helmets themselves were offering prayers unto Krishna's lotus feet. Joda hatti brahma rudradi karaye stayana bada kripa karila prabhu dekaila charana. With folded hands, all the Brahmanas and Shivas began to offer prayers unto Lord Krishna, saying, O Lord, you have shown me a great favor. I have been able to see your lotus feet. Bhagya more bolaila dasa angikari kon agyahaya taha kuri siridhari. All of them then said, It is my great fortune, Lord, that you have called me, thinking of me as your servant. Now let me know what your order is, so that I may carry it on my heads. Krishna kahe thoma sabha dekhte chitta haila tattalagi ekadhani sabha boilaila. Lord Krishna replied, Since I wanted to see all of you together, I have called all of you here. Sukhi hao sabe kichu nahi daitya bhaya thara kahe tomara prasade sarvatra jaya. All of you should be happy. Is there any fear from the demons? They replied, By your mercy, we are victorious everywhere. Samprati pritive yeva hayachilabara avatirna hanataha kurila samhara. Whatever burden was upon the earth, you have taken away by descending to that planet. Dvarakadi vibhutara eita brahman amara e brahmande Krishna sabara haila gyan. This is the proof of Dwaraka's opulence. All the Brahmas thought, Krishna is now staying in my jurisdiction. Text 79. This has a purport. Should we read that together? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. 79. Krishna saha dvaraka vaibha anubhav haila.
Krishna saha
Dvaraka vaibha anubhav haila. Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava
Anubhavaila. Ekatra milane keha kaha na dekila.
Ekatra milane keha
Kaha na dekila. Ekatra milane keha kaha na dekila.
Ekatra milane keha kaho na dekila.
Ekatra milane keha kaha na dekila.
Ekatra milane keha kaho na dekila. Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Ekatra milane keha kaho na dekila.
Ekatra milane keha kaha na dekila. Mataji's.
Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Krishna
Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Ekatra milane keha kaho na dekila.
Ekatra milane keha kaho na dekila.
Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Krishna Saha Dvaraka Vaibhava Anubhavaila.
Ekatra milane keha kaho na dekila.
Ekatra milane keha kaho na dekila.
Krishna Saha,
Krishna Saha
with Krishna.
With Krishna.
And Dvaraka Vaibhava,
Dvaraka Vaibhava.
the opulence of Dvaraka.
The opulence of Dvaraka.
Anubhava Haila.
Anubhavaila.
There was perception.
There was perception.
Ekara milane.
Ekatra milane.
Ekatra milane. Sorry. Although they came together.
Although they came together,
Keha,
Keha.
someone.
someone,
Kaho,
kaho,
anyone else.
anyone else,
Nade kila,
Na dekila.
did not see.
Did not see.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thus the opulence of Dwaraka was perceived by each and every one of them. Although they were all assembled together, no one could see anyone but himself. Please repeat after me. Thus the opulence of Dwaraka
thus the opulence of Dwaraka
was perceived by each
was perceived by each
and every one of them.
And
every one of them.
Although they were all assembled together,
Although they were all assembled together,
no one could see
no
no one could see
anyone but himself.
anyone but himself.
Purport. The four-headed Brahma perceived the opulence of Dwarakadam, where Krishna was staying, and although there were Brahmas present having 10 to 10 million heads, and although many Lord Shivas were also assembled, only the four-headed Brahma of this universe could see all of them. By the inconceivable potency of Krishna, the others could not see one another. Although all the Brahmas and Shivas were assembled together, due to Krishna's energy, they could not meet or talk among themselves individually. Krishna Saha Dwaraka Vaibhav Anubhav Haila Ekatra Milane Keha Kaho No Na Dekhila. Thus the opulence of Dwaraka was perceived by each and every one of them. Although they were all assembled together, no one could see anyone but himself. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmitam Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadanayam Dadati Swapatantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, we are reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, the instructions Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving to Sanatana Goswami. In this chapter, he speaks about the opulence and the sweetness of Lord Krishna. Here is the specific mention that after Krishna gave quite a task to Lord Brahma, showing him actually his pride and showing him his position as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He also gave him, after being satisfied by Lord Brahma's attitude, he gave him the vision to understand his position. So, in that way, he actually showed him that he is not the only Brahma. This material world actually, whoever comes to this material world comes due to the desire to lord over, due to the desire to be the master, Ishvara. So every living entity, from the lowest living creature up to the highest living form, which is Brahma himself, everybody is actually under illusion that he is the controller of the controller of his position, so to say. So in that way also Brahma was astonished to see that he was not the only one, and this universe was not the only universe, but there were innumerable universes. And actually, in fact, he was the smallest one, the chief of the smallest universe. There were other Brahmas, who had many more heads than just the four of our Brahma. So, naturally, he would understand his position and offered due respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, begging forgiveness for his audacity which he showed by stealing the cowherd boys and the calves. At the same time, a very important point has been made by Prabhupada in the purport, that Brahma, due to the mercy of Krishna, could actually perceive the other Brahmas who also came to offer their respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the others couldn't see each other as it is stated here. So we can see that the vision is dependent, or the knowledge is dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not due to our own endeavor and capacity to be able to perceive the absolute truth. Many times we actually, or generally we tend to think that we are capable and that it's due to our endeavor that we progress on the path of acquiring knowledge or on the path of perfection as a devotee. Like a materialist, he believes in his capacity and his strength in order to achieve whatever he wants to achieve in the material realm. But this also, to a certain extent, also applies to us or to spiritualists, to devotees who are on the path of perfection. But many times Krishna makes it very clear that it's actually not our capacity or our own doing that we are progressing. It is actually only due to the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we sing every morning, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasada, Yasya Prasada, it is actually by the mercy of the spiritual master that we gain the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And why? It's because when we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, then Krishna is actually very happy. And when Krishna is happy, then we'll be able to receive the mercy. And then the knowledge is actually revealed. There is a difference between revelation and achievement. In the material world, we think we can achieve, or the process of acquiring knowledge or acquiring any kind of assets is based on endeavor. How they say, the more you work, the harder you work, the more you will gain. Nothing is impossible. Yes, we also agree on that. But it's a little different. First of all, there is also the consideration of karma. In this regard, Prabhupada actually makes the point, somebody interested in spiritual life, he won't endeavor for any material gain or for any position, because he knows that already has been destined at the time of birth, how much you will gain. With the set of body also comes the set of assets you will be able to achieve. That's why a transcendentalist is not really interested in order to gain any material assets. That's why Prabhupada also said, actually there is no need for any further education. Once you came to Krishna consciousness, that's it. The only thing then really necessary is to engage in the process of devotional service, in the 9 limbs, in the 9 different activities. And it's not really necessary to strive for any other so-called knowledge or achievements. Naturally, this is a very lofty and elevated position, but that's what Prabhupada said. And even if we're maybe not capable to follow that, at least theoretically we should accept. Because it also, the other consideration is, unless we are on that plane of pure devotional service, where we only will do what the spiritual master or the devotees are asking us to do, naturally we will have some desires. And that has been told that is okay. So we should follow that, but we should be very careful that we are not attached either to the result and that we are doing it for the only cause, for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that way, actually, gradually, we will be purified and will be able to come to the stage where we are actually simply where we simply want to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anlasya vitas, anya vilasita sunyam, jnana karnani, anavritam, anakolena krishnam shilanam, bhakti uttamam. Where we are actually free from any desire for material benefit, and also free from the desire to gain liberation, where we actually our only interest is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a very lofty position. That's why it always has been said that the highest state is actually the state of a Vaishnava or a devotee of the Lord. He is even higher than the demigods, as we have seen in the verses before, the ones which were given to me. The verse which you gave me, 68, seemingly you discussed before. There was, Prabhupada puts in the purport, the incident of Lord Indra, which he was actually cursed by Gautam Muni, actually to lose his testicle, and also that his body will be covered by the female genitals, the vulva, like thousands of vulvas will cover his body. And that was due to, because the demigods are actually karma mishra bhakti, generally. That means that they approach the Lord in order to fulfill their desires. They are devotees of the Lord. They acknowledge the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they're well aware that nothing actually can be achieved unless one receives the Lord's mercy. But still at the same time, they harbor some material desires. They want to enjoy. In the case of Indra, he was very much inflicted, as actually every living entity, by the attraction of the opposite sex. And he was that much attracted to Ahalya, the most beautiful woman on earth, which was the wife of Rishi Gautam. So he was that much attracted that he actually arranged particular circumstance in order to fulfill his material desire, up to the extent that he did immoral activities, for which he also then got punished quite severely. So we can see from that position, from that story actually, how elevated the position of a devotee is, a pure devotee of the Lord. He is completely free from any desire to enjoy this material world. Neither is he interested to become free from this material entanglement, which is the aim of the Gyanis. That's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita also states that actually the only peaceful person is the devotee. Why? Because he is nishkama, he has no desire. Bhukti mukti siddhikami shakari ashanta. All the others are actually not peaceful, ashanta, meaning their mind is disturbed by different desires. Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra Maharaj, Jai Shri Shri Govinda Dasa, Jai. So, and this position is actually offered to the living entities in the most beautiful way, in the most merciful way by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the most munificent incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like we can consider in what kind of state we are actually in. We took birth in Kali Yuga, which is the most degraded age in the cycle of the 4 yugas, where everybody is short-lived, everybody is unhappy, misguided, on top of all, always disturbed. So these are qualities which actually are very much disqualifying any living being to engage in devotional service or to engage in the path of perfection. Still, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in order to deliver us, to deliver the living entities who have taken birth in Kali Yuga. And why did he do that? He did that out of his causeless mercy. Once Srila Bhakti Char Maharaj gave a nice explanation when he was asking, what is causeless mercy? Causeless mercy is causeless. It has no cause. Because sometimes you may consider what means causeless mercy. And at the back of our mind, we think, oh, somehow or other, I must have earned, that mercy. But that's completely wrong. That is, once again, a trick of Maya, meaning that we somehow or other, I still, of course I'm very fallen, but, I have some qualifications. But we actually don't have any qualification at all. And Narottam Das Thakur also says, then why us? Why we have that inconceivable luck to be exposed to Krishna consciousness and to be able to engage in the process of devotional service. This is because we are the most fallen. Wasama Patit Prabhu Napai Vyara. Narottam Das Thakur sings. Because I'm the most fallen, I'm the first recipient of your mercy. So this understanding actually will help us on the path of devotional service. It will save us from the pitfalls of thinking that we are somebody special, and in general it will protect us from the onslaught of thinking that we are capable of following this path. Because we also have to understand, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually came as a revolutionary. What Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought to this world with his Sankirtan movement is actually completely revolutionary in the Vedic understanding. The Vedic process, in order to achieve perfection, was actually very structured and delineated in the Vedic scriptures. First of all, the conditioned souls has to come up to the stage of sattva gun. Means it has to purify his existence in order to gain the state of being in a mode of goodness, meaning being born as Brahman, reaching that stage. Because only, according to Vedic understanding, only somebody situated in a mode of goodness is able to read the Vedic scriptures, and only Brahmins were allowed to engage in the Vedic rituals and sacrifices. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us a shortcut, realizing that in the age of Kali, everybody is completely disqualified. In the age of Kali, everybody is a Shudra, born as a Shudra, even lower. Prabhupada many times actually made that point, how fallen actually the state of affairs nowadays is. He even said that the general public is not even on the stage of Shudra. He's actually 5th, 6th grade. Not even on the state of animals. So we all can understand Prabhupada didn't exaggerate in order to frighten us or anything. He actually made that statement because it's a fact. So from there we can see, like from where we're coming, and we can well imagine that with this kind of qualification, we're never gonna be able to properly, follow the Vedic path in that way. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he said, doesn't matter which state of life you're in, simply accept this holy name. Simply by serving the holy name and chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everything will be taken care of. Doesn't matter in which standard you are, just engage in the chanting of the holy name and you will be purified. And by following that process, finally, all of us will be able to achieve success in life. Means being able to again be situated in the loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and being able to go home back to Godhead. And not only back to Godhead, that's another very outstanding characteristics of the causeless mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Generally, the four sampradayas, the four bona fide sampradayas, their goal is Vaikuntha. If one achieves perfection, then he will enter into Vaikuntha. Because the relationship between the devotee and the Supreme Personality of Godhead was conveyed as being on the stage of servitorship, as being the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went higher and explained that there are three more relationships which a living entity can have with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, meaning friendship, parentalhood, and conjugal relationship. And these three rasas are actually only existent in the topmost region of the spiritual world in Golok Vrindavan. So there we can see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in order to give the highest spiritual perfection to actually the most fallen and most degraded living entities of Kali Yuga. So this is completely inconceivable. Nobody can understand. Does anybody of you have experienced, or does it exist in this material world, that the richest man gives something free for the most degraded? You won't get anything in this material world unless you're qualified, properly qualified. Nobody does anything like that. So it's completely inconceivable. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when He personally comes, He can do. So, this is the causeless mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was taken up by the Acharyas and has been so beautifully brought to the whole world by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It's actually due to his mercy that we are able to partake in this Sankirtan movement. So this should be always very close to our heart, and we never should forget from where we come. And at the same time, this will be also a safeguard not to fall the trap of being unnecessarily proud. And it is actually the key to the proper understanding Trinadapi Sunicha Taro Vivasa Ishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari, to understand our constitutional position and be able to 24 hours be engaged in the chanting of the holy name, be engaged in Sankirtan. And that is the perfection of human life. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Are there any comments, questions?
I will ask in German. Du hast so oft von Causeless Mercy gesprochen. Und nun, wenn das ja so wäre, dann wäre ja der ganze Vorgang, den wir befolgen, nutzlos. Können wir ihn nicht irgendwie geneigt machen, uns diese Mercy zu bekommen? Verstehst du die Frage?
Nein. Kannst du das?
Können wir Krishna nicht irgendwie mit unserem Bemühen bewegen dazu, dass er uns eine Causeless Mercy zukommen lässt?
Yeah, by following the process. Also ich antworte in Englisch.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, once being exposed to the mercy, we actually should be very serious and showing our gratitude to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even being such a fallen, in a fallen state, still being a receiver of the mercy, we should put all our energy in following the process which was given to us in order to reach perfection. Because it's one thing to be exposed to the mercy, but the other thing is also to grab to the mercy. Prabhupada also once said that when he was asked, how is it, that is the spiritual master more merciful to certain individuals than to others? And Prabhupada said, no. The mercy of the spiritual master is available for everyone. But the qualification is whether we are able to grab it. So that's an interesting point. So sometimes we tend to think that, that Prabhu or that Mataji, she got more mercy than me. What can I do? That is a trick of the mind. It's up on us. Don't listen to the mind. Listen to Prabhupada, the instruction of the spiritual master. Accordingly, the more we follow and we engage ourselves in the process, which has been very beautifully lined out by Rupa Goswami other acharyas, the more we actually will advance. And it's not dependent whatsoever on karma or anything. It's simply dependent upon us. So what it is said, what is the ingredients in order to progress? What Rupa Goswami said. Loyal eagerness. That's what is necessary for a devotee. We have to try to cultivate eagerness. Also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the mercy is there, the only thing we have to do is to grab it. Unless and until you grab it how you want to. Actually, the example has to be given, like what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, what the Guru Parampara did, what the Acharyas do, what the spiritual master do, is just like giving the rope. Like we're like in quicksand, just on the way down, sinking, sinking, sinking. Now somebody comes from outside and he gives us a rope. So the only thing we have to do is to grab on the rope and then to pull us out. Not even pull us out, just grab on the rope. He will pull us out. But that we have to do. You don't do that. And say, oh, it's a nice rope. Yes, I know, there would be the chance. I would have the chance, but maybe I should. We have to grab to the rope. Is that satisfying?
I have a question not regarding the causeless mercy. You spoke about Indra and how he got so much bewildered and followed his lusty desire, and then you mentioned how he even acted immorally. And that's a question which has been on my mind for some time. Indra was acting immorally, and there's quite a few pastimes where he was bewildered. But then we also know he's a great devotee, and if he would come here now, we would offer him all respect, and we would accept him as our authority. In a sense, he's a higher devotee than we are. Now when we are dealing with devotees on maybe more our platform, and they commit some mistake, they act immoral. How do we deal with this later on? Because there is the tendency to just condemn somebody for the rest of eternity. Or when do we forgive? And also maybe how it comes to practical application in ISKCON. We know there needs a certain understanding of principles we follow. So maybe you can share a little bit your thoughts on that.
Yeah. First of all, we have to understand in this material world there is always temptation at every step. And actually, as Prabhupada used to say, do not wonder if somebody goes away, wonder if somebody stays. Meaning that this material world, is so strong. It's actually glorious if somebody doesn't fall victim to it. But naturally, we understand, like if we follow the process, we will be protected. that's the other side. Prabhupada said if you follow the process properly, Krishna will protect you. Meaning, if you follow four regulative principles, if you chant the holy name, you will be protected. And that's one consideration. And then naturally, we're not in a position to condemn anyone. So we always should be internally lamenting if something happens to some devotee and try to help him. Naturally, if we're in a position of authority, we might have to be strict. And for the sake of, we're an institution has a structure. So Prabhupada set up the rules and regulations. So if you're in a position in a responsible position as a leader, we have to guard the society and protect. So in that case, we might have to take a strong stand. But that is if we are in the position. And one very important point is that we shouldn't rejoice by seeing somebody being in trouble, because this is the material nature. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, I feel very happy if I see others in pain. So when this comes up, we should recognize we are actually bringing ourselves into trouble. If we really want to help a devotee who is encountering some difficulties, then we should be merciful and we should try to help him. Is that?
Yes, thank you. I just want to put a question which is more specific. So let's say somebody does something wrong and then he's not following the principles which have been set up by Srila Prabhupada. So in that moment it's kind of clear that we have to make a distinction between someone who follows and somebody who doesn't. But what about somebody who had some difficulties, didn't follow, but now is following? Do we still take that into consideration? Or do we say, since now he's rightly situated, we will not look at that anymore? I mean,
You're a little tricky. In one way you want to be more specific. I would say, that's the whole thing. Before I also wanted to add, if somebody wants to rectify himself, but due to weakness, then we should try to encourage him to come up to the standard. But if somebody is lazy, out of lack of enthusiasm, is not following, that shouldn't be encouraged. And the other thing, if we all come from Sodigated backgrounds, so once we gave that up, don't look back. It's also said that one shouldn't judge a Vaishnava according to his previous life. This is very detrimental. And maybe that's also in the relation to the others. Now you started with, wow, Lord Indra, wow, that lusty guy, So we don't really understand. First of all, we are on the plane of human beings. It is also said that the sense enjoyment of the demigods we can't understand what that is. that is much more subtle. They're not engaged in this gross sense enjoyment we're busy with here. It's a question of consciousness, so we shouldn't consider that, well, Lord Indra and we have the same problem. We have the same problem. That's not how it is. And another consideration is also we see the external body, we don't see actually the spirit soul. So we are limited in a similar way as in the purport which Prabhupada made, Like if Krishna gives us the vision, we may see, but otherwise we won't see. We're limited, our senses are limited, our perception is limited. So that's why we should safeguard ourselves, be careful how we judge others. Do you want to get more detailed about what you really want to know?
This we can do in private.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
I just wanted to share something. I'll just quickly share something if you allow, just because it's hard to remember. I mean, there were 3 very short points on this aspect. One is I was listening to this, I'm now listening to this Prabhupada's lecture on Ajamila, the whole Leela. And it's very nice, it gives very different insights. And Prabhupada mentioned how Ajamila had an accidental fall down. Because of that, the Vishnu Duta still came actually to take him back. And many times I used to read the transcript, and this accidental fall down used to come up again and again. And I asked Jayadvaita Maharaj what it means. And Maharaj said that sometimes, for example, Ajamila was not looking for falling down, but it happened. So he was not looking for going into the forest and looking at a couple having intimate exchange, but it happened. So it was an accidental fall down. And I was thinking that, and just to understand this matter deeply, that even with devotees, we are materially conditioned and also in this a very precarious state in this world. And if a devotee has an accidental fall down but comes back, I think, because I was many times in the audience when Guru Maharaj was asked a similar question. And Guru Maharaj also gave an answer which was very similar to the fact of this coming back. Because Guru Maharaj mentioned how so many Prabhupada disciples also left and they also started breaking the 4 regulated principles. This was brought up, this fact. But Guru Maharaj said yes, but their service to Prabhupada earlier and the fact that they came back and, let's say, recommitted themselves, that is what matters. And Guru Maharaj would quote this, this text. And also I remember, what was this instance? Yes, I was reading one, I don't know which book I was reading, but it was mentioned of how Prabhupada's exchanges, I can't recall where I read it, but one of the books which describes Prabhupada's exchanges, and one of the disciples wrote that Prabhupada was being, one interviewer came, a newspaper journalist, and he said, I want to write a book about the Hare Krishnas, and can I interview your disciples about their life pre-Hare Krishna, like before they became Hare Krishnas? Prabhupada said, there is no life pre-Hare Krishnas. Because now when they are here, what they did before doesn't matter. Because now they are Krishna conscious and their life from now on matters. So I was thinking, even in such circumstances, and of course our institution and our movement will have so many such instances, but when a devotee comes back and when a devotee is again committed and we understand it was an accidental fall down, so in a way we should be accepting and respecting the fact. And of course, I think also these 4 aphorisms are very important. Like purity is a force, books are the basis, utility is a principle, and preaching is the essence. So if we always keep reminding ourselves about this, then, and if we see a devotee has come back and is pursuing, and it was an accidental fall down, so perhaps we should also be soft-hearted enough to accept the devotee. I mean, there's no question of acceptance, to not let our heart disrespect anybody in that regard.
Yeah, maybe it just came to my mind. Prabhupada was once asked, when he said accidental fall down, he was asked, what does it mean, accidental? When is it accidental and when is it fall down? And Prabhupada was quiet for some time, and then he said, if he comes back this lifetime, it's considered to be accidental. And another consideration is also, we always tend, actually, for us individually, it's better to see the good in devotees. We always tend to, like the flies, go and criticize. That won't help us. It also won't help the situation. We may, or our mind may stipulate, yes, I'm just doing it for the good of the other devotee or the society. But unless and until we're in that position, like a temple president understands, we should be very careful. Rather look at the good, and always be aware that we don't see the person. Prabhupada said that, we see the body, we can't even see the mind. The mind is subtle. We can't perceive intelligence. So what to speak of perceiving the soul? We see the body, and Atmaman Manyate Jagat. We perceive it through our mind. So that's one consideration. And just the other day I heard a very beautiful examples in this regard. Like Prabhupada was making the point of yoga prasta. When somebody doesn't complete in his spiritual journey in one lifetime, so he will be born, as Bhagavad Gita says, Suchinam Sinatam Gehe, like in the family of Suchinam, pure Brahmins, or in a very rich family. And then he brought the example of Bilva Mangal Thakur. And the point was that he actually mentioned Bilva Mangal Thakur elevated himself up to the stage of Bhava. But somehow or other, he didn't complete. And in his next lifetime, he was born in a very rich family, aristocratic family, But somehow or other, Prabhupada said, he got attracted to the prostitute. But then, he also made the point, but then when he was confronted, by Chintamani, the prostitute, he said, after, his father just passed away and he was performing the rites, and he would ask the Puijit, the priest, to hurry up because he wanted to go, and that whole story we all know. He went through rain and storm, swimming through the river, hanging on to dead corpse, climbing over the wall in torrent rain and hanging on to a snake. So when he came, when he came then to Chintamani, the prostitute, she said, "Wow, how you have come, and she said that if you just would have, put that endeavor, use it, in order to gain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what would have happened, And Prabhupada makes a point, he just heard that and gave up everything, left and went to Vrindavan. So, we don't really know, once again, who is actually in our humanity. So better be safe and sorry. Naturally, as we progress, we'll see.
Just on this point of Govinda Dasa that you brought up, I thought it's a very nice example for for personal application, in the sense that when it comes to judging others, then we shouldn't judge. But when it comes to ourselves, because when Bilvamangala Thakur, he even pierced his ears. So on a personal level, prashchita is important, like to that reformation. That when it comes to our own, we know that our own lackings or our own fall downs, then we should be very strict with ourselves. But when it comes to others, we also have the story of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. We should not be so judgmental.